afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. I would like to present you a project designed by my students in the Prague Academy of Arts, Architecture and Design a couple of years ago, and the happy end of this project, which is very unique in the context of Central European countries, according to my opinion. I should start with a brief glimpse on the visual culture of the Czech Republic, which is very poor. On the left side, you can see the official inauguration document of our president, who was elected a couple of months ago. And this is the official paper he signed during his vow. And actually, this is a copy because the first document he signed, it was a typo. So he signed again in the office without the typo. But this is our visual culture of the authorities. On the right side, you see the ordinary signage on the streets of Prague and the toad intended for tourists with a Prague picture or drawing. So this is our visual environment I have to see every day. But back to the street signage, the main topic of this presentation. In 1784, the Bohemian Kingdom followed the orders by Austro-Hungarian Empire to have official street names in all cities. So in 1784, they decided to name all the Prague cities because many streets had different names and local people called the street using different names than other people. And in 1787, they decided to give certain rule how the street signs should be painted on the walls. And still you can find about 10 of them in Prague. Most of them are reconstructed. And sometimes the old names differ from the names we use now. Many street names in Prague changed its name during the last 200 years 10 times, maybe 15 times. We had Stalin Street, for example, which is, of course, no more used. In 1868, the Commune of Prague, or the Prague Council, decided to have a standard cast iron plates, bilingual Czech and German. This is the oldest photograph I found from 1880 documenting this cast iron sign on the corner of the street. And those signs were in Prague until the beginning of the 20th century. Together with the old signage. Here you can see the problem of renaming the street. The old name painted on the wall and the new name on the cast iron sign. And in 1894, the Council of Prague decided to use Czech names only. The German minority was upset. The problem went to the court, and the court approved that the Czech people can have Czech names only. So since 1897, it was official that all the new names will be in Czech language only. And they added the number of the district. So it was still cast iron. Another example of the same street sign. I never discovered any original sign of this design, so I can't tell you if it was. I can't tell you the color. It was probably white lettering on red background, but I don't have evidence. In around 1910, they replaced the cast iron street signs by enamel street signs. This is the oldest photo I discovered in the archive of the city of Prague. And it looked like that. This is a picture from 1910, and you can see the sign is brand new, so it was probably established, or they started to introduce the enamel signs in 1910. During the German occupation of Czechoslovakia, during the Protectorate, Böhmen and Mähren, the signs were bilingual. The top part was German in black letter, the lower part was in Czech language in some sans serif typeface. In 1945, just after the end of the war, people put stickers at the top of the German part of the plate or the sign, And finally, in the years after the war, they switched back to the enamel street signs. And some of them, this is my picture, survived in the streets until today. This is the first standardized form of the sign with the district number, and this is the sign you may be familiar with if you've been to Prague, because it has the second line with the name of the district and the number of district. Now back to now let's go to the more recent times. This is the situation of Prague street signs. You will have a lot of versions, a lot of different type forms, letter forms, a lot of different frames, a lot of different colors. I liked the diversity of this. All of the signs were produced by hand, and all of them are like this. If you want to see the technology, or if you want to see the sign in real, I will let you touch it and feel the letters on it. During the World War II, all the Czech signs had to be removed from the facades, but probably people kept them because many of the signs on the in the city center are the pre-war signs, so probably people kept them in a cellar and put them back on the facade after the war. The same situation is with house numbers. There are many different sizes, letter forms, frames, and you can even find cast iron numbers or numbers engraved in stone. But the disaster came in the 2009, where the computers were introduced in the enamel factories, and they started to experiment with Helvetica. The principle of the street signs in Prague is they have certain size, and the typeface had to squeeze in it. So the size is always the constant. I've seen similar thing in Poland. They also have enamel street signs, but they change the size of the sign according to the length of the street name. And they didn't mind, they just squeezed the Helvetica compressed to make it even more compressed or ugly. And I was really upset with this. So when I was invited by the head of the graphic design course at the Academy of Arts, Architecture and Design in Prague, I immediately know the students will try to design the typeface for Prague enamel street signs. So my goal was to create something which would replace the Helvetica, Switzerland, Corel Draw fonts and mixing in Prague, showing in the street signs in Prague. So I asked them to build a font system, define the proportions, create a manual how to properly design street signs in Prague, and then they could try to expand the system to other cities in the Czech Republic. And the students who took part in my workshop was Felip Blaz, Wojciech Říha, Jan Novák, and Jan Křívek. Two of them have the R sound in their names. We visited the enamel factories to understand the technology, and it was very important because the process of creating enamel signs is very different from other usage of type. They used reverse stencil to produce the signs. And we spent a lot of time exploring how we could make the process of creating the signs faster and more efficient. I will explain the process of creating the street signs in detail later. So this is one of the proposals of the students. They tried to build a very narrow typeface for long streets name and also a bold, strong typeface for very short names, and of course interpolate the styles. One of the important features of this typeface is there are no overshoots, because it extremely simplifies the process of creating the signs. I'm speaking of uppercase only. Lowercase letters do have overshoots, but they are not used for street names, so it's just a complete alphabet, but they are not used. This is the principle of interpolation. They designed a bold, white, bold letter, and they just make At the same skeleton, they designed a narrow letter, as you can see on the right sketch. It is not only narrow, it's also thinner. It's the principle of the interpolation. And they come up with 4 different widths which serve 99% of the needs or the street names and square names in Prague. So you can type the shortest name, which is Theme, and you can write one of the longest names, which is the lower right example. Felip Blaz, the main designer of this typeface, created 2 masters, and the rest is simply interpolated. In the beginning, we designed, or he designed, and I accepted that he will just create 4 instances. But in the end, we discovered that for 13 street names, which are quite common, we need another interpolation. So now we will have 6 fonts altogether. And this is just a short explanation of the process. First, you have a metal plate. You spray it with glass powder from both sides to protect it from corrosion, and it's fired in the kiln. The temperature is 1100 or 1400 Celsius. Then it's sprayed by red glass powder again. It goes again to the kiln. Then the blue border is sprayed around it. It goes back to the kiln, and then they remove. They create the shape of the border. The blue part, it goes to the kiln again. Then they spray the powder, the white powder, at the top of the whole sign, and they carefully remove the places, the part they should not be there, using toothbrush and other tools. So in the middle, in the bottom line, this is how it looks like just before finishing, removing the white part. And then it goes to the kiln again. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of electrical energy to produce such a sign. So it's 4 times in the kiln. The students designed also a complete system which would cover many possible situations in many Czech cities. So they really spent a lot of time inventing different borders, different colors, lowercase, uppercase versions of street signs. But back to Prague. In 2010, the project was featured in the ATypI magazine, published in the Czech Republic, and 1 year later it was published in Polish magazine 2+3D. But still, there was no interest from the authorities of Prague. I was quite upset because I was really happy with the result. I thought this is perfect way of replacing the Helvetica style on the Prague street signs. So I called the director of the National Heritage Institute in Prague, and we had a long meeting. It was a very friendly meeting, and he encouraged me to continue with this process and to start negotiating with the Prague authorities. In August 2011, I was invited to join a meeting of, it should sound awkward because in Czech language the expert board name is really strange. Expert board of the mayor for the visual identity of the city. They realized that Prague is not really welcoming city and that the number of tourists is dropping year by year. And maybe the fact that the city center looks like any other Eastern European city, with matryoshkas on sale and ugly souvenirs for tourists and a lot of ugly plastic signs in the historical center, they decided we should do something about it. And a year later, I proposed to this board my project of my students with the street signs, and they were quite happy with it, and they proposed it to another department of the Prague municipality. So I presented to another department, and in 2012, a year ago, I was presenting this project to the mayor of Prague and the 15 members of the Prague City Council, and the project was approved immediately. I was really happy, and in September 2011, they produced first street sign, and in November 2012, the first new designs were installed in the cities of Prague. This is communication was not perfect, so I realized the streets are done when I read this article in the newspaper showing the mayor of Prague next to a street sign with the name of a dead ice hockey player. And it was not about the new street signs, of course, it was about the fact that the dead ice hockey players have street in Prague. But well, this is my typeface, wow, it's already done, so I was trying to seek places in Prague where the signs are installed, and I found it. This was the first one I spotted in the streets of Prague. This year, fortunately, they still send me the sketches of the new sign, so I can control it, because from time to time they do mistake. They exchange hyphen for and dash, or they use wrong interpolation. I started to collect the images of the signs, so as you can see they are now spread all around the city in different districts, as you can recognize from the numbers. Prague has 10 districts and it's almost everywhere. And this is another sample. And it was already vandalized, one of them, as you can see. It's a Paradise Street, actually. The one street. This is a detailed picture of the actual typeface. And as you can see, the technology is not perfect. The shapes are shaking, they're rough. The corners are soft. And we decided to do little improvements of the typeface, which would react to some details we discovered during the production. For instance, we discovered the accents are too close and we have to make them more open, but those are just details. And the project, I hope it will continue, because Prague recently decided to spend a little bit less than €1 million to find all the street signs in Prague, place them on a map, and create the missing ones. Because there are many streets in Prague with no signs at all, so it's difficult to know where you are. And they also decided, or they planned, or they started to think to improve the street, the house numbers as well, because there is a total chaos in the house number style. While the street sign design is defined by some law or some documents, everyone in Prague can design his own street, a house number. There are no rules at all, so they plan to standardize it, at least in the historical city center or in the UNESCO part of the town. And that's all. I have one remark. Is there someone who will be 46 in this month or in this week or very soon? Okay, so you won the plate, which is somewhere here, so find it and keep it.
Does the curvature occur, and did your students take that into account in the initial designs?
Sorry, could you ask again? I'm sorry.
At what point in the enameling, the production process, does the curvature come?
Yeah.
And did the students take that into account in the design process?
Yeah, they did. We spent really a lot of time in the enamel factories looking at the process from the beginning. When you, it's probably visible here. In the top left image, I don't know if you can see it, but when you spray the layer of the glass powder, it's about 1 millimeter high, or maybe even 2 millimeters, and it melts during the process. It smelts. So this is how the 3D effect is done. It's not artificial, it's the integral part of the enamel technology. And of course we took this into account and we was aware of this, but we didn't have money to test all the typefaces on real plates, on real signs. So the students had only the opportunity to test one sign, and we discovered few details much later during the during the year.
I really love this project. Just one question, I might have missed an information. You did it all, your motivation was to get rid of the cheap digital type, whatever they did. But how do you see the danger of your new designs now kind of wiping out the old signs which are good, which are traditional?
No way. No, it couldn't
They
happen.
They won't replace those.
No, there won't be any replacement. So the Helvetica will be a memorial of the 2009. All the Helvetica signs will stay on the place. Only new one, or old one, or broken one, or stolen one, because Franz Kafka's Square is often stolen. They are replaced by the new ones.
Thank you.
Do you go and steal the Helvetica signs from the streets?
I can offer this proposal to the students. Thank you very much.